Namaste everyone, Ram here, your DNA hacker. I wanted to share today a delicious recipe. A lot of times people ask me what do I eat, and in the mornings I typically have a smoothie. And if you're a busy person, smoothies are a great alternative to get in power-packed nutrition without the need of having to invest so much time. Alright, so I've mentioned this blender before. This is a vacuum blender. So as you'll see when I turn it on, the first thing that it's going to do is that it's going to take out the air out of here so that before it blends, the oxygen has been removed so that when it does blend it, the food inside does not get oxidized. So what I'm doing today is a recipe that, of course, as usual, you want to go to the blog post, the link is below, so that you can actually see all the ingredients and some suggestions and what are the benefits. So I've modified this it's a paleo-friendly recipe, this cinnamon roll smoothie. So obviously, if it's a cinnamon roll smoothie, it's going to have cinnamon. It's going to have something sweet like a banana. I've cut a banana here into pieces. Let's put that one in there. I've also peeled and cored and cut an apple. We're going to put that in there. You want to make sure you core it and peel it. This doesn't go in the recipe, but I always like to add some turmeric. We've talked about turmeric before. It's a little piece of root, a couple of inches, and it's been peeled. I'm going to toss that in there to enhance the absorption of the curcumin, which is a fat-soluble compound. I'm going to add about a tablespoon of coconut oil, and this is saturated fat for the most part, but it's a saturated fat that's good for you, as opposed to maybe like animal-based saturated fat. Then if you wanted to enhance the protein, you can add a couple tablespoons of almond butter. I don't have that available with me. So what I'm adding instead is grain-based. So in here I have about a half a cup of a mix of oatmeal. Added some oatmeal, maybe like a quarter cup of that, or maybe a little bit less. I also added I added oatmeal. I added organic hemp hearts. These are the ones you want, shelled hemp seeds, better than ground form. And this is loaded with a lot of good stuff like omega fatty acids, protein, minerals, it's superfood. I've also added wheat germ. So read the blog post below. I'll give you some information as to why wheat germ is so important. And we eat a lot of refined foods that strip away the important parts of the grain. This is the germ of the wheat, what is nutritious about the wheat. And of course, I added some cinnamon, and that's about 3/4 teaspoons of cinnamon. That's all in here. Let's add that in there. And then the last ingredient is, of course, the almond milk. So this recipe calls, as you can see my son over there in the background, this recipe calls for a cup of milk and then the rest ice, but I don't like to add ice because I typically don't like to drink stuff cold because it gets in the way of the fire of digestion, and so you don't want to slow down your digestion. So as you can see, very easy. Obviously a little bit of extra time investment in peeling a banana and peeling and cutting and coring the apple, but that's not really that much time. So we're going to start this, and as you can hear right now, it's taking out the air from here before it actually blends it. So the last note that I want to make is you can also add a teaspoon of some sweetener like a raw agave or raw honey or something. I usually do not add that for myself, but if you want a little sweeter, you can do that. I'll be doing that for my son who's going to have some with me. And so I hope you enjoy this. I will be putting this on my blog post with all the information. My name is Ram. I hope you serve you well. Namaste.